Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, Sally's like to.
So, call to order. I'm going to ask us to rise again and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Of the United States of America, republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice
for all.
Justice for all.
Okay.
Welcome to our May 19th school committee meeting. Item number 1 is correspondence, the May student enrollment report. Dr. Sanquioni, anything to report?
Nope, just that the numbers are consistent from April to May. 1,715 students. Consistent.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the committee on that?
No, thank you.
What's that?
All set.
Item number 4, policy development, revision, and review. This is the second reading of policy number 1185, responsible use of technology by students. Second reading. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the policy.
Motion to approve policy, Sally.
Is there a second? Mrs. Black has made the motion to approve. Can I have a second? Everyone needs it.
Never mind, I got it.
Dr. Larkin,
Yep.
I'm going to ask that we remove this one from the agenda tonight.
Okay.
It's not posted on the school district's website, and we really do need that.
Okay, so Mrs. Black, you made a motion to approve that has not been seconded. Do you care to remove the motion, withdraw the motion?
Yes. Yes, I will withdraw the motion until we post it. Thank you.
Okay, so Mrs. Farnworth, would you like to make a motion to continue this item?
I would like to make a motion to continue this item on the agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? So we'll continue this to our next meeting. I'll do a roll call vote. Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Palish?
Yes, but please make sure it gets posted
Okay.
on the website.
Yep. Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Black?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So we will continue this to our next meeting.
Sure.
Next, item number 5, new business, graduation plans. I'm going to take a couple minutes and just sort of make a few comments before we move to this. So, I think one of the important things is to realize that Rhode Island has flattened the curve. Things are getting better. We weren't overwhelmed. We weren't some of the other states that were really impacted by coronavirus, although we have been certainly impacted by coronavirus quite a bit. Our unemployment rate has gone from 4.6% in March to greater than 15% in April. And while things are getting better, I can tell you from personal experience, I can sort of hear and feel the healthcare system creak and flex, but it has not been overwhelmed. But we still don't have a really good end in sight. And we're all pretty tired. And to our seniors and their families, this has been a really confusing situation. We've certainly gotten a lot of different guidance, but we don't really know for sure what the future holds. And I congratulate you guys on finishing the year remotely, and that you are accepting this sort of unimaginable situation and disappointment with maturity. This is probably one of many lessons you're going to experience in adulthood, and certainly graduation is one of those big demarcations where you go from being a kid to an adult. We don't know what the right decision will be at the end of June or in August or maybe even in November. But we can make some decisions now based on what we do know. And we do need to make a plan, and we do need to make a decision. We need to make a plan that we can actually accomplish for some time in June, because no decision will lead to paralysis and leave everyone in limbo. But we should make a decision that allows for some flexibility if things should change. Lastly, one of the nice things about being on the school committee is actually attending graduation, although that is not a moment that's about us, it's about you guys. But when we see that completion, it actually makes all of the budget bites, the school committee meetings, sort of all the work that we do worth it. Lastly, I want to make sure that you guys all understand that we will stay here tonight for as long as it takes to answer all the questions that any parents or any students or any other members of the public have about our graduation plan. We just ask that the questions be respectful, and Ms. Delcourt will be monitoring our live feed in order to bring questions to us. Lastly, I'd like to thank Mrs. Palish, Mr. Ashley, Ms. Delcourt, Dr. Sanchioni, and all the people and all the students and the class advisors and everybody that helped come up with our plan. Really last point, if you did not have an opportunity, please tune in to the virtual graduation ceremony that was hosted on Saturday night by LeBron James. And if you don't do that, but also in addition to doing that, if you do, please tune into the Saturday Night Live virtual mock graduation that was put on not last Saturday night, but the Saturday night before. I think you will enjoy it. So with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Sanchioni, can you tell us what is planned for graduation 2020 for the Tigers?
Well, I'm going to continue with your commendations and say that what's about to be presented, I'm going to ask I'm going to ask Ms. Delcourt to start by reviewing what other districts are doing, because I think then as we transition from her to Mr. Ashley, he provides an overview of the Tiverton plan. You're going to see what an amazing plan this is comparatively, and also want to pay commendation then to, again, names you've already mentioned, but Ms. Palish, Mr. Ashley, Ms. Delcourt, and I'll let Mr. Ashley also commend the students and the advisors. It was a true collaborative effort to get a lot of people to agree to figure out a tough situation. And again, I can't commend these people enough, because I believe Tiverton's plan is the premier plan in the state. So with saying that, Ms. Delcourt, you did some amazing research, and perhaps we start with what other districts are doing. And then Mr. Ashley, I'd like you to take over and review Tiverton's plan.
Sure thing. Thank you. So basically what I did is I took a comparison to our closest schools, including Portsmouth Abbey, Middletown, the Bristol Warren Regional High School, Rogers High School in Newport, Barrington, St. George's, Portsmouth, and then Tiverton. I split it up into as many categories that would cover what everybody is considering. One being virtual video, another being graduation speeches, another being an in-person activity, the duration of how long these events will occur, and then gathered premiere, if there would be we've heard the term drive-in movie style, and then last but not least, the postponement, if someone was just considering postponing. I'm going to go ahead and put this slide up on our website and on our social media pages very soon, but it'll show you and illustrate that no one in those schools that I had just listed is doing everything. We're doing all of the above. Most schools are doing one or the other, but I will say Bristol Warren and Barrington are both undecided. They haven't decided yet. They both have very different dynamics than we do. Barrington having 311 graduates, and then Bristol Warren having a considerable, again, more than double than us as well. So that's what we have in comparison for our surrounding areas.
Great, thanks, Julie. Chris, why don't you take us through the plan that was developed collaboratively, and if you could please make sure that you name the advisors and the students?
Yeah, so happy to. So, to echo Dr. Larkin, Dr. Sanchioni, and Ms. Delcourt, the tremendous effort and really sincere thank you to Dr. Sanchioni was on the team, Ms. Polish, the school committee member. We had our class advisors, which were Ms. Farastro, Ms. Bennett, and Ms. Borges. We had our two wonderful student leaders, Abby Forcier and Abby Poland. Thank you to Abby Squared there. And understandably so, there was a lot of discussion about this. And, it took some time because as Dr. Larkin spoke to, the guidelines were shifting a little bit and we were trying to do everything we could to maximize the celebration while obviously still adhering to the guidelines for safety. But as Ms. Delcourt spoke to, we're really excited about this plan because we feel it actually gets at everything we possibly can do in terms of celebrating the amazing achievement. And I send my sincere early congratulations to all of our graduates now, while of course also speaking to the safety measures I'll speak to in a moment. So it's going to start with in mid-June, we're going to have our graduates arrive in groups of 10 to 12 to Tiverton High School. So they'll come into the student parking lot at predetermined times, and we'll have a stage set up outside. The students will park in the parking lot, and then one graduate at a time will exit their vehicle, walk up to the stage. The diploma will be on the stage, all set up, ready to go. Ms. Delcourt will be there at a distance, safe distance recording. And as the graduate picks up the diploma, there's a photo opportunity, and then we're going to have a screen set up so that teachers, based off of the student selections, teachers can pre-record personalized messages to each of the graduates. The graduate will have that opportunity to view that message, then exit off the stage and return to his or her vehicle. We'll complete that process for each of the 10 to 12 graduates in that group. And then as a group, those 10 to 12 students will drive up to the front of the school. And this was an idea that came up from the students, is have a separate photo area for the graduate and his or her family in the front of the school, so that each graduate, again, just the graduate and his or her family will exit, go up to that photo area, have an opportunity to take the family photo with their cap and gown on, and then the student will drop off the gown, get back in their vehicle, and then depart. That first wave will occur, and then it will continue like that in terms of these waves for all the graduates over 3 days in mid-June. And then the video collections that Ms. Delcourt will gather will be compiled together along with speeches into a movie premiere that is planned for June 27th. That'll be in the evening. That movie premiere will be at Tiverton High School. It'll be in the parking lot. People will not be allowed to exit their vehicles, but we'll have it clearly marked off so that each person will know where the parking spots are. We'll have a large screen set up and, have a drive-in movie celebration. It'll still be a wonderful event just to get everybody at the high school celebrating our seniors, and it'll be the first time that everybody gets to see all of the graduates together at the same time. In terms of the diploma presentations, we have the following dates set up for graduates to receive them. So June 11th, June 13th, and June 15th. On the times of those, we had originally were thinking an afternoon, but we got some feedback around possible work conflict. So on the June 11th and the June 15th, that's a Thursday and a Monday, we have a 5 p.m. start time planned for those two dates. And on June 13th, which is a Saturday, we have a 10 a.m. start time planned for that. On the June 27th for the movie premiere, that's going to be in the evening We haven't set the exact time because we're looking at, in terms of the sun setting, but we'll get that time out. But again, it'll be in the evening, all set up for people to watch. In terms of safety measures, the state has provided guidance. So as we know, all people involved will have to maintain at least 6 feet, and we're planning for more than 6 feet separation. All people outside will have masks on as the students walk up and receive their diplomas. We have preparations planned so that there'll be a screener for each graduate in terms of making sure that no one's feeling symptomatic or not feeling well. And then any surfaces that are touched by a graduate will be cleaned and disinfected, such as handrails, for example, between each graduate. And again, we feel that this plan, we know it's not quite the same as what we would hope, given any other typical year, but we feel it's the best of both worlds in terms of getting students still at the high school, outside, on a physical stage, receiving their diploma, having an opportunity to be with their family, again, on that separate photo section in front of the building, and then bringing everybody back together in the lot and to watch that wonderful video that we talked about.
Okay.
So Dr. Larkin?
Yes.
Before we go to questions, I want to share with everyone that this plan was submitted to the Tiverton Chief of Police, and he has approved it. And I also reviewed it verbally with a member of the Rhode Island Department of Health and got a verbal okay from them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So again, thank you, Mr. Ashley, Dr. Sanchioni, Ms. Delcourt, Ms. Borges, Abby and Abby, and I'm sorry, the other two teachers whose names I can't recall off the top of my head. Apologize for that. And Ms. Palish. So I'm going to open up the floor to questions from the school committee first, and then we'll take questions from any parents, students, or other interested parties who care to pose them. So Ms. Barnworth, I'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. I think it's quite a comprehensive plan, Mr. Ashley. I do thank you, and I also want to extend my thanks to Ms. Barastro, Ms. Bennett, Ms. Borges, Abby, of course, here now, Abby Poland, who were with us last time around, and of course, Ms. Palash, for all working collaboratively on this. I know it's not a traditional graduation. We all wish it were. I mean, it's, as Dr. Larkin alluded to earlier, it's one of the high points of our service is getting to attend these graduations and seeing everyone, happily accepting their diplomas. We all realize that it's not a traditional time. But it's a great effort that you've all put forth. And I just want to wish the graduates and their families the very best as they go through this process, and wish them well as they go toward their futures.
Okay, thank you. And that was Mrs. Bennett and Ms. Barastro. Sorry for Barastro, BBB. All right. And of course, Mrs. Borges. Mrs. Black, questions?
No, I saw that you changed the number of people from 4 to 5. Is that correct? I saw that change today. And I thank all of you for working so hard on this. It's on site. It's on our campus. I'm happy about that. And it's close to what we can get for each individual student, I think. And I think it's going to be amazing. And I thank all of you for all that work. And I think all questions and comments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Scott. And Mrs. Pavo.
I have one question. Is it 4 to 5 or 3 to 4 members of the family? I thought we were 3 last week and moved to 4, but maybe I missed something. When I read this through before earlier, is it 4 people per graduate, including the graduate in the car, or is it 5?
Julie, you're muted.
It is 3 people plus the graduate, so 4 total.
Okay, so went to 4. Yes, okay, that's what I had written. Okay, thank you. That's it. That's all I have.
I saw the latest one that came today went to 5 because the governor says 5. I just wondered about that. That was
Five outside, not in the car. So,
Yeah, that's,
Photographer that count as one.
those are the ceremony participants, correct?
right.
5, that number is,
okay. Thank you.
Is-
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Ms. Powell.
Why don't you go first, Dr. Larkin?
Oh, I'm kind of all out, other than, again,
Oh, okay.
Well, I really commend everybody's work. Again, this is not what we would want for all of you. But I think we will remain open to, if things open up, great. But I would parse the governor's words, especially in the news conference on, I think it was April 29th, where she was warning people away from planning their weddings in August if there were more than 50 people. That I think this is the plan that we're going to be left with, but we can always continue to hope. Anyway, Mrs. Palish.
Not to crush your dreams, Jerry.
I know. I'm not.
The reason we do need a plan and we do need to finalize it because people need to be able to know when they have to be someplace when. We have to get, we have to work on getting, because we talked about this a lot. We even talked about postponing till the fall, but I think what we found is graduates are leaving for various reasons, and that doing it in this month of June would mean we'd have the most graduates here. We need to get screens. We need to get DJs. We need to get, there's a lot of things that need to happen so that we can make this really fantastic. So we do need sort of a final date just so everybody knows what's going to happen, and we need to plan around those dates. I just would hate to see us say, you know what, on the 10th, let's not do this when we have everything in place.
Yeah, no, don't misunderstand me. The 27th is the 27th. I agree, and a plan is a plan. Go ahead.
Okay. My only question, I guess, Chris, is, so if we approve this tonight, how soon are we going to get the information out? Like, what were you and Peter and Julie thinking? Only because I really do want graduates and I want parents to know what these dates are, because it's not June 5th. What are the dates? Because I really want everyone I want to see everyone. I want to see every row and every child be able to be at every one of these, if at all possible. And I think the sooner we can get this plan out and the dates out, the sooner we're going to be able to hopefully make that happen.
Yeah, Ms. Posh, absolutely. We plan on getting the communication out tomorrow.
Have you already decided which row is coming when?
We have. We would start.
Okay. Nope, you don't have to. Nope, you don't have to tell me what that is. Just if it's been decided. Yeah, that was really my only question, because because it's different, I just want to give everyone as much time as absolutely possible to make sure that they can meet their time slot and that they know we're doing something on June 27th. Just for the committee, we do have a rain date. If June 27th, not for the rows, those are just going to happen on those days. But I think we decided, yes, Chris, if and Julie, June 27th, if for whatever reason we get completely rained out, we'll do the next weekend. Yep. Okay. And then the only other thing I wanted to comment is we did discuss, if for whatever reason that graduate's time slot doesn't work, we will make accommodations for them to come another time. We will not miss a graduate.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Ms. Posh. I was going to speak to that. Absolutely. We were never going to let a parent or a graduate not attend or not make it because of a conflict, we'll absolutely do whatever we need to do to make sure that the graduate can come.
All right, great. Any other questions from any members of the committee? So Ms. Delcourt, are there any questions from the community?
There are, and they're great questions. I do want to also just set the community at ease and let them know that we are almost done with a graduation hub on the Tiverton High School website. So if you were to go there right now, you wouldn't see anything other than tab, but just know that I'm about 4 to 5 hours away from launching, where you can plan, you can see how it compares to the restrictions that the Department of Health and the government have. And it just really will help you better understand what you were looking at. And we want, as a committee that helps work with this, including the Abbey Squared, we just want you to know that there doesn't need less. And we are truly excited about this. And I think the hub will help you visualize what is going to transpire. But we do understand, and we meet you at your passionate moment that you really want this to be special. We completely hear you on that. So here are the comments. So Ms. Poland, she wanted to mention, if we are doing a weekday, it should be after work hours so all essential workers can make it. The weekend would work better. And then Ms. Brenna Nobrega made a point to say, I feel the weekend would be best, especially because they would not be as much a time difference with us all graduating. Then Abby Poland went to say, we should keep the idea very loose so we can adjust to ride restrictions if they decide to loosen them. I hope that's an awesome problem that we have. And then Ms. Christine Costa did have a question, and that is, can graduates who are related to one another be in the same group of 12?
So the 27th is a weekend day, isn't it?
Well, the premiere is on a weekend day, yes.
Yeah.
There's 2 days when they line up our weekdays.
Oh, I see.
So we
I
switched
see.
the time. So
Okay. All right. So you've actually already switched the time that would accommodate that. Is that right?
Well, it's 5.
Okay. So, Mr. Ashley, do you want to address the timing and weekend issue? Or?
Yeah, well, it is something we had talked about. Like I said, we wanted to chunk those 3 days. So first we needed the 3 days just for logistics in terms of giving making a reasonable amount of time for each wave of graduates to come in. And we also wanted to keep it those days relatively tight to each other to give Ms. Delcourt some time to collate the video or all the individual videos together between that mid-June timeframe and June 27th, just knowing that that would be a fair amount of work. And in terms of the last comment from Ms. Delcourt around, what was it, graduates related to each other being, can you rephrase that question, Ms. Delcourt? I just want to make sure I understand it.
I sure can. So the question is from Mrs. Costa, who I believe does have more than one graduate, one being a nephew, one being a son. So she's asking, can graduates who are related to one another be in the same group of 12, which would allow her to see her family members graduate instead of just her child? I think I'm summarizing.
Yeah. If parents, so we are still finalizing, the list of students in terms of each successive wave. So if a parent just submits that request directly to me, we can see if we can accommodate that request.
Okay. And next, Abby Poland has a question. If a student brings less than 3 people, can others bring more?
the copy of the picture.
You want to take that?
Chris,
Yeah.
just some thought on that. So when they exit the car for the picture, we're still bound by the 5-person rule.
Mm.
That's why you have to limit it.
Yeah. So, that's what I was just thinking about. So to Dr. Sanchioni's comment, we're just still bound by that 5-person limit right now. you know, so that's.
So 4 in the car and the photographer will be 5.
Right.
And so if I understood your previous comments, Mr. Ashley, it was, you know, if there are issues with, even with the accommodation of it being at 5 o'clock or other times of the day, if there's a issue with a particular family, they just need to let you know about it, and we'll do whatever we can to make sure that that's accommodated for.
Right. Yes.
And I guess to the same point, if there's family groupings or an extended family that says we would like to be in a group together, we'll do everything we can to accommodate that as well.
Correct.
As long as they make that
Yeah.
request. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one question? Mr. Ashley, you're mentioning that you're starting at 5 p.m. on 2 of the days. I assume you're going to have more than one group on each of those days. How much time are you allotting to each group?
You mean for each day?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we're shooting for that 2 to 2.5 hour total time frame for each day.
But so you're starting at 5 and letting 12 cars in. Is it that you'll be expecting another 12 at 6?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Or
That's
actually,
really my question. Is that how they are being scheduled?
correct. Right. Actually, we're hoping it's a little bit before 6. Actually, so that.
Well, I mean, my thing is, you know, and I agree, parents need to be accommodated, especially those who are going to work. And a lot of people don't make it home by 5 o'clock. I know if I were in the office right now, I would also not be home yet. So I fully understand that. And so would they have the opportunity to sign up for a little later time slot, be it, you know, what are the slots? Or are you asking everybody to come at once?
No, it's supposed to be by rows. Whatever their rows would have been when they graduated, that's the row that's going to be in a slot. So the top 10 plus, you know, the president and the treasurer secretary, then the next row, the row of A's, whoever would have been in the 12th. So the rows are split up by how they would have sat at graduation.
Oh, so that's good. That's very good. Because it's basically the same setup as a traditional graduation.
Except that they come a half hour apart.
Right, right.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Correct.
But the seating is basically the same as a traditional.
Correct.
Seating, well, not seating, but.
The car row.
Arrival, I guess
Yeah.
you could say. Yeah.
With some accommodations if people request certain groupings.
Right.
That's what I would hope.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. If we can, we're gonna work to you know, to fit, you know, particular schedule conflict or something.
I mean, because Diane, not all parents work 9 to 5 Monday through Thursday either.
Absolutely.
We have parents who work on Saturdays too. So I just think that's the reason to get these out as soon as absolute possible, because now you have a month and a half, or a month, I guess now, you have a month to know when your time slot is.
Okay. Great. Other questions from the community, Ms. Delcourt?
There are. So another question from Ms. Poland. Why do we need to keep such a tight restriction on the amount of people in the cars? Nobody is leaving them besides the graduates.
They're not going to take a picture with their family?
I suppose if you sit in the car, you could have as many people as you want in there, right?
Well, the idea was to go down. So you graduate, you go across the stage, and then you drive down to in front of the school, and you actually get out with your family, 3 family members, and you take a picture. That was the whole idea.
But I guess the point is, I suppose you could actually have more people in the car. They just only 4 can get out.
Right. Yeah, correct. You know, in that case, you know, in this.
As long as everybody has a seatbelt and can drive safely, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But doesn't that
Doesn't
violate the gathering of the 5 people though? There's still the limit from the governor, is there not?
Outside of the car.
Of 5
The
people?
5 is outside of the car, not in the car.
There is no specific, I mean, as far as I know, there's no specific limit on the number of people you can have in a car. So if you have an 8-seater van, 8 people can be in that car. There's no, the law is, the declaration is silent on that.
Okay.
It's just that you can't have all 8 of them get out and
Correct.
have a party.
Or take a picture.
Or in this case, take a picture, right?
Right.
So Mrs. Black can bring a lot of people in her van.
A lot of people don't want to borrow my van.
All right, so Abby Forcier wanted to make a comment that we need to do weekends only. Essential workers cannot make it on Thursdays and Mondays. She also made another comment, student council never agreed to those dates. It should have been run by us beforehand. She said that I thought we agreed on the 13th, 14th, and 20th. And if we're bound by five people, then why are we able to do the whole row of 12 there at one time?
Again, the 5 is only how many people can be outside at one time. As long as we're in a car.
Right. And I guess just on the dates, again, just thinking about, Miss Delcourt, you and the filming, we just want to try to be, I guess, as reasonable as we can be in terms of giving you some time to, put the movie premiere together. And give you some time, knowing that would, be quite a project.
So Mr. Ashley, what are the dates? So just to address that one specific issue, what are the dates again?
Yeah, right now we have the 11th, the 13th, and the 15th. And that's a Thursday, Saturday, Monday.
Okay. And
I mean, originally we had the 6th. What did we have? We had the 20th, the 21st. I don't remember. What were the original days? Does anyone remember?
So, but be that as it may, those are the dates right now. And as if I may,
right.
Parse your words again, we will make every accommodation. If there's an issue with those 3 dates for any particular family, the district and Mr. Ashley and Ms. Delcourt and the others, I'm sure are willing to make an accommodation for some other time or some other date. So that was, I think, addresses one of the questions of Ms. Forcier. Julie, go through them one at a time and see if we can actually answer them.
Sure. So she was questioning she thought we agreed on the 13th, 14th, and 20th. Does that answer your question?
Oh, that was it.
13th, 14th, and 20th is what you wanted.
So originally it was Saturday, Sunday, Saturday.
Okay. I would expect that the team will, if there is a real issue for any individual or a large number of people, we can accommodate that. We'll shift our thinking, I would guess. So what was the next?
Again, though, today the whole point is to walk away with dates that we can give people.
Right.
But you're right. If someone can't do it, we're not.
It's all falling apart. We'll always, go to plan B or make it plan B. What was the other next question, Ms. Delcourt?
So I think for clarification, the next one I think we've already clarified, but I'll read it. What about families larger than 4? I have a family of 5, and therefore I will not be getting a family photo. So I want to just address that. So I can absolutely see how we kind of confused you on that. What's going to happen is you're going to actually walk to the concrete sign that says Tiverton High School, in front of Tiverton High School, where you'll drop your gown off and you'll pick up your paperwork. So that's where as of right now, the governor's restriction is 10 people. So being off to the side, if you have a family of 9, then you're still in regulation because it's just the photographer. It's when you have a family of 10 that we have an issue. So if you're a family of 10, that's where we have an issue. But we're talking about in the front of Tiverton High School, you have since walked across the bridge, you've since seen your message, you've gone back in your car and gone to the front of the high school. So a family of 5, we can absolutely accommodate for a picture because it's literally your family and one photographer in the front of the school for the professional photograph, if that makes sense.
All right. What's the next?
So
one?
now I'm confused because I thought we were saying only 5 people around the stage when they were walking. So what we're saying is by the end of June, we think it's going to be 10, which is fine. It doesn't change the plan.
Sorry, I meant, so for example, everybody stays in the car with the exception of the graduate to walk. And then these families are saying, so I can't have my entire family of 5 get the picture taken over by the high school thereafter, which we can absolutely accommodate, right? By staying within the restrictions on the other side once we're away from the speech.
I think if you include the photographer, the maximum number of family members you can have is 4. That's what the current declaration of the emergency says.
Then I misspoke. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's no problem. And that's, this is the thing is today is May 19th, I think. We don't know what the situation on the ground will be on the 11th or the 13th or the 20th of June, nor on the 27th of June. And to Mrs. Polish's point before, and what I tried to say earlier as well, is that we have to have a plan now because no decision, no plan leads to paralysis and limbo. If something changes that then allows greater flexibility, then and that is still consonant with all that plan, that doesn't completely throw things into chaos, then we're thinking beings, we can sort of try and accommodate that. But I think right now the declaration remains that no more than 5 people can be congregated in any given place. And that's the plan. The other thing to keep in mind is that this is a plan that has to be approved by the police department and the chief of the police because they are charged with enforcing essentially the emergency declaration. Will things change? Eventually, yes. Will they change by then? I do not know. And anyone who tells you that they do know doesn't know. So, we will continue to do our best and continue to try and be flexible.
So if on June 11th, enlarged the restriction and now says it's 10 people, then by all means, we'll accommodate. So that was your point about being flexible as far as
correct. It's
5 now, it could be 10 then.
Right. So, common sense hopefully will prevail in all instances, but you never know. All right. Elcourt, the next question.
Sure. And one thing I will say too, to accommodate families such as that, we did talk about a front porch project. I think that's a good qualifier for families over 5. That maybe I will go ahead and do a front porch project where I know they have their gowns, and I will personally drive to their home. We'll keep our social distance. I have a fantastic long lens, so I won't come anywhere near you, and it'll look like I was right up your nose. And I will happily take a family photo in your gown because that's a special moment, and I would never want anyone to not have that. So I think we have a solution for that. We'll go back to the committee to make sure, but we hear you. We hear you loud and clear, families that are big. I'm a family of 5 myself, so okay.
Thank you, Ms. Delcourt. You're a national treasure.
All right, so the next one is, and I apologize, I'm making sure I didn't skip one. So this is from Abby Forcier. Why did the initial idea of the whole class in the cars a safe distance apart not go through? In that idea, only one graduate would leave the car at a time.
It's a violation of the directive from the governor's office as given to the superintendents from the Deputy Chief of Staff of Governor Raimondo.
Okay. And
can I just add I think the other issue is Abby asking about having all 128 cars at a, I'm not sure what
I'll reread it.
I think the other complication was that would be a 6-hour graduation.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Plus, I
With
think
cars
you're not allowed
running.
to run cars on a school property for,
That was the other issue, is that we couldn't have cars idling
With cars running
that
at 27, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then, let's see, so Abby Poland had mentioned Thursday, Saturday, and Monday, question mark. And then Ms. Brenna Nobrega said, I feel like it is already hard enough that we are graduating on separate days, therefore at least the weekend, the time gap isn't as bad. Then, let's see, Abby Forcier says that she will, that there'll be enough time to put the video together for the 27th if the dates are the 13th, 14th, and 20th. If so, or that was a question, sorry, if there's enough time. And then she said, if so, I think it is better to simply do Saturdays and then hope people are available.
again, I think we remain flexible in terms of days if people can't make the specified dates.
And that is the last question that we have.
Okay, going once, going twice. Any other questions from the committee? Mrs. Black?
No, just the fact that we said if she
No.
changes the number, we'll be flexible.
Okay.
If the governor changes the number. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Mrs. Farnworth?
No, I think we've covered it all. Thank you.
Mrs. Palish?
my only concern is the dates, because but if you know, we have to set dates, and if those are the dates that were decided, they are different than the ones we had decided. But if that's what's decided, and you know, we need that much time to give the video, I certainly think the video is going to be you know, it's going to be such a highlight. I just thought that was such a good idea. So if those are the dates, you know, we'll just try to be as flexible as possible around, you know, grouping people.
Agreed. Ms. Pavo?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, and any other questions from the public, Ms. Delcourt?
No, sir, that is it, thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the dates and plan as specified, recognizing we will be flexible with families to accommodate their specific needs.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
Sally.
And is there any other discussion? All right, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Mrs. Black?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
yes,
Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And again, our thanks to Mrs. Verostro, Mrs. Bennett, Ms. Borges, Ms. Delcourt, Ms. Palish, Abby Forcier, Abby Poland, Dr. Sanchioni, and Mr. Ashley, and everybody else who has helped with this ongoing process. Our next item is 5B, the Fort Barton Principal Search. Dr. Sanchioni?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to update everyone on the search for the principal. If I go in reverse chronological order, we had 38 applicants for the position. We screened those down. We interviewed about a dozen in screening interviews. From there, 4 people were moved forward to a semifinalist committee. Those people were vetted quite deeply by that committee. 3 were picked to be finalists. Last night, we had a open forum for every member of the Fort Barton staff to meet the 3 finalists. Tomorrow evening, we have an open forum for every parent to meet the 3 finalists. Every time we have a forum or an interview, we have rating sheets and are collecting a lot of data on the candidates, which we're triangulating all that data to help us make the best decision. Once tomorrow evening is done with the parent forum, I have a one-to-one interview scheduled with the 3 finalists, and then there'll be a detailed reference check. And typically when we follow the process, it leads us to the right decision. So I'm excited. I think we have 3 great finalists at this point, but we have several steps left to finish before we make an offer.
Okay, great. I'm gonna ask for any questions from the committee. Ms. Pavo?
no,
Ms. Palish?
no,
Ms. Farnworth?
No, I think it's been a great process, though, from what I've seen.
Mrs. Black?
No.
Okay, and I have none, so thank you very much for all of that work. Item number 5C, the transportation bid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we finally have a bid in from our busking company when we say transportation, and I've asked our business manager, Amy Roderick, to review these numbers and make a proposal to you this evening for our transportation bid.
So it's, thank you, Dr. Sanquioni. So it has been an interesting process. We started the bid process in February, and the bids were ultimately opened with a few addenda added on April 30th. And so the common theme across, to take a step back, we collaboratively bid with other districts in the East Bay. And although we requested bids individually for our district. And it turns out that the contractors, whether it was First Student or whether it was Ocean State or any other, only bid on their existing business. They did not bid on any new business. So the only bid that we received was from First Student. And that is the same thing that happened for Bristol Warren and Little Compton and Portsmouth and all of that. And I believe that only Barrington has Ocean State. Everyone else has First Student. And so we had the bid specifications that went out, and First Student responded with 3 choices for pricing. And the summary is basically they priced it out at the bid specifications as they were written. They gave us an alternate pricing, which is basically the change being, instead of tying the year-to-year increase to CPI or cost of living, they made it a flat 3% and then reduced a little bit the first year cost. And then in the second pricing, alternative pricing they gave us, it was similar, 3% increase per year versus cost of living, but that the fleet would not be more than 10 years old, whereas in the specifications and alternative 1, the fleet would be 5 years old, no more than 5 years old. So they would have to incur capital costs after 5 years. In addition to that, they had proposed some contract language modifications, which are still open for negotiations. They are not a requirement of accepting either of the alternative pricing. And basically most of the language that they wanted us, or they are asking us to add, benefits them and not us. So one of the recommendations I'm going to ask for from the committee is to give Dr. Sanquioni and I permission to further negotiate the language so that it's much more fair to both parties. So with that, in doing the number crunching, so in speaking with some of the other business managers that were involved with the bid, there is a lot of concern about using buses that are 10 years old. At first I thought, well, you know, buses that are 10 years old, it'll save us some money. But apparently, you know, they get wear and tear every day, and that the maintenance of 10-year-old buses in and of itself could impact performance. So with that, I am recommending that we take the alternative pricing 1, which is effectively a fleet of 5 years old, and that the increase in years 2 to 5 of the contract be 3%. And the reason I'm suggesting that is, given the, I know that the consumer price index has been fairly level over the past number of years, but with the economy having changed so dramatically, you know, trying to sort of head off any inflationary effects of the economy coming back. So like cost of living could be 3%, it could be 6%, it could be 8%, it could be, so my recommendation to the committee to approve is that we award the bid based on the alternate pricing 1. The minimum, if we were to take the bid specifications as they were proposed, the minimum cost of living increase would be 1.75%. But then it's the higher of 1.75% or whatever the cost of living would be. So with that, I will stop for questions.
I'm going to open the floor to questions before I ask for a motion. Ms. Farnworth?
Actually, I think we should ask for a motion first.
Motion first, yeah. I'll make the motion, Dr. Larkin, to accept the recommend.
Okay, all right. Is there a second?
Sally seconded.
Okay. All right, so Diane, questions?
So this is a pretty steep increase.
Mhm.
And did you say what the percent increase was? I'm sorry.
If we take alternative pricing 2, it's a,
I think you were recommending 1, weren't you?
I'm sorry, 1. Yes, it's 10%, 10.3%.
Over how long of a life of the contract?
Over 3 years.
So no, so that is 10.3% in the first year and then 3% every year after that.
For 5 years, did you say?
For 5 years, right. So in years 2 through 5 would be a 3% increase.
I don't know if we can sign a contract that's longer than 3 years. I don't think we're allowed to.
I don't think we can either.
Yeah, by state law, I think you're right,
Yeah, I
Diane.
don't think so.
Yep, we've never
contract with them. I don't think so. This is
we've never done longer than 3 years, to my knowledge.
No.
Or is that just collective bargaining? I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure state law
Steve,
precludes us from signing anything more than 3 years.
unmute.
Mr. Robinson,
He's unmuting.
finding the button. Yeah.
Let me unmute.
There you go.
You're
You're
unmuted.
unmuted.
Oh, Mo, it works now? Great. Okay.
I think Dave did.
I must have yelled at it. That's why it works now. Typically, it's 3 years with option years thereafter that the committee can pick up. That's not unusual, but I can check the statute for you and get back to you on that. But that's my understanding. It's 3, and then you can typically many of the contracts have written in additional years with which the committee, it becomes the committee's option to
Right.
opt at the end, at the 3 years, so it ends up being 5 or 6 years or whatever.
Yeah.
I can double check as well, but several of the other districts also went with 5 years. So I would expect that if there was some legal prohibition to it, they would not have done that either. But I can also check on that.
A legal prohibition doesn't stop anything in Rhode Island.
There's no question on employment. It's 3 years.
Yeah, that's why I said, that's why I was wondering if it was just employment.
Yeah, it may just be employment, but I need to check on it before I get into that.
So our current.
I'll email tomorrow on that.
All right. So I'm sorry, Diane, you had the floor.
I feel as though a hike this high is really pretty greedy on behalf of the
I'm
bus
sorry, is
company.
what?
I think a hike this high is very greedy, especially as we're entering into some very uncertain times. I realize we have to have the service. I'm hesitant though to have us agree to a 5-year contract when I think things can change so much in that amount of time. And having us tied to 5 years on such a large item, I'm not necessarily a fan of. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
Okay. Sally?
Mrs. Radford, what do we have in the budget for our first year for them, for the buses, in the budget?
Yeah.
We have about 1.8 million.
I agree with Mrs. Farnworth. It's very greedy. I'm not surprised. But they've always been.
Well, I can tell you that when we tried to negotiate offline before the bid was submitted, the pricing was not much different, and the pricing across the board, whether it was Ocean State or First Student, due to the similar economic circumstances that we're in, they are in, that the pricing across the board was very, very similar. Whether it was, again, Ocean State is only the one community in Barrington, but their, my understanding from the business manager over there was that the pricing increase was very similar. Not that that makes a difference per se. Ms. Farnworth, I agree, they're being greedy and they're trying to recoup some of the losses for this year. And among other things that, you know, they're trying to manage their cash flow like everyone else is. But when I calculated, you know, sort of the offline negotiation we had with them, which was 8% this year, 8% next year, and then to renegotiate beyond that, in the end of with the course of 5 years, we end up paying roughly the same amount of money. No matter sort of how we slice it, within $20,000 or $30,000 here or there. So again, not that that's a reason to approve, but we are unfortunately at the moment caught between a rock and a hard place when it comes to transportation negotiations. And it's not just us, if that's helpful.
I think, well, we just need to also, you know, we're required by law to provide this service, and we can't charge for it.
Correct.
I understand that it is what it is. I just, you know, in these times, and really in any time, you can be certain that drivers aren't getting the bulk of this increase.
Yeah. Even though they are claiming that this increase is directly the result of collective bargaining, we know differently. No, we know that. We know that.
And is this contract, do we have to go 5 years? Do we have an option to do 3?
The way the contract, the way we put out the bid specifications, we asked for 5 years, but I'm sure I could go back to First Student and ask them for a 3 and 2.
And I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks about that.
I have a question for Amy.
I like a 5 year. Years is a long time. Steve, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just had a question for Amy. Amy, with your discussions with the other communities, did they only get one bid as well? Do you know? Can you hear me?
Correct, yes. And it was from their existing provider.
That kind of, I don't know if that's kosher. It's just, you know, you go out to bid and everybody's colluding, and I don't know.
They do it every year.
The same thing happened last time.
Yep.
Well, that may be problematic. So I don't know if but.
Yeah, we certainly have tried to have this discussion upstate.
I think it's called antitrust, or, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But.
There was mention of that. Because it was kind of coincidental that every community only received a bid from their existing contractor. That is coincidental, is what I'll say. But given the circumstances of sort of, you know, what school is going to look like, and again, this is what we were being told, given the circumstances of what school might look like in the fall, you know, no one wanted the complications of taking on new business, apparently.
That's one way to look at it.
What about 3 years ago?
I can't speak to that, but
No, it's just nonsense. Yeah.
The other question I have is, do we anticipate any regulations coming down with regard to seating on these buses and space between students? And is that going to force any kind of changes, or is that baked in here already?
no, it's not baked in. So
Numbers.
that's some of the language that I want to read. So they proposed, in addition to these sort of 3 options, you know, suggested contract modifications, several of which Ms. Farnworth addressed just that, whether capacity on the buses goes up or down by X percent, we would be on the hook for that. But then there was no language about, if it was reduced, would we, get a credit for that? So those are the items that I had wanted to go back to the bus company and say, listen, this can't all be one-sided. I know you need to make your money, but we don't know what things are going to look like in the fall. And what if we need double the buses just by virtue of that? And that was not enunciated specifically. So those are things that we have to go back to them for.
All right. So, Mrs. Pavo, any questions?
No, thank you.
Ms. Palish?
Nope, Diane covered them.
So I have a couple. They claim to have losses over the last 2 or 3 months because we're not paying them?
Correct.
Okay. That's a loss, I guess.
So Dr. Larkin also.
They had laid off, I know they laid off all the monitors. Did they lay off their drivers as well?
When I spoke with the general manager of the Tiverton site, he said that they did lay them off, but that they were still responsible for their health insurance. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I think they were trying to do right by their employees in that regard. So I would tend to believe that that was the case.
Sounds more like
I beg your pardon?
That sounds more like a furlough than a layoff.
They use the term layoff. I didn't mince words, but so I can tell you that in one of the things that they had proposed when I was mentioning to you that we had tried to negotiate with them prior to the bid coming out, one of the things that they wanted in order to cover their fixed costs was not only to negotiate like a 2-year contract extension of our existing contract, but that we would then pay for part of this year in which they provided no service, meaning that we would cover their fixed costs based on what they calculated as their fixed cost per day. And that was, so in addition to having gotten, having negotiated a 2-year extension contract, they also negotiated a 2-year contract extension. They also wanted us to pay them $175,000 for the portion of the year for which they didn't provide service. So I was not comfortable with that. So that's why I opted to go with the bid. And even given that, had we done that and then gotten the 8% or 7.5%, 8%, whatever, we would have ended up paying more money in the long run. So either way, they're trying to grab money, as is my understanding, as is the same at Ocean State. Again, that's through the grapevine from the other business managers.
Nothing new.
Yeah, no doubt that's true.
Nothing new.
All right. So the motion is to approve Ms. Roderick's recommendations for the bid, which is a 3-year contract with a 2-year extension, and authorizing her and Dr. Sanchioni to negotiate any other proposed language in the contract. Do I have that right?
Dr. Larkin, no, it's a 5-year contract. I believe the committee would like me to go back and discuss a 3-year contract with a 2-year option, if I understand correctly.
But
And
correct, the motion was for the 5-year.
Yeah.
Right.
The motion.
So we would have to amend the motion or.
All right. Would someone like to make that?
Well, you might want to, we can let you know tomorrow if we have any objection to the 5-year on legal grounds. And if you don't, then if we don't, then if you make a contingent motion, you can, based on that, you could approve it as a 5-year if you want to, based on.
Do we have to approve this tonight?
Not from my standpoint.
Yeah, we have to meet next Tuesday anyway, so we'll just continue it till then.
Yes, I think that's a best idea.
I agree.
Okay. So who made the motion? I think it was Mrs. Pavey.
I made the motion, so I'll withdraw the motion and we'll post this next week after we get more information from Mr. Robinson.
Yep.
And Ms. Roderick.
And Ms. Roderick, yeah.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you, Ms. Roderick. Good work.
Thank you.
thank you.
Dr. Larkin,
Yes.
I just want to remind everyone that last time we went through this, we had the gentleman from the company come right to a huge meeting,
Yep.
grilled him half the night, and nothing changed, if everyone remembers that. We had a public hearing about it, asking them all the different questions. Why was that? Why was it such a big increase?
I know. I remember that was one that made us have it. Didn't do anything. All right. So next we have executive session. I'm going to ask for motion, move into executive session under Rhode Island General Law 4246582. Litigation, legal advice, personnel, teacher termination, and same statute, section 1, job performance, character, physical or mental health, teacher non-renewals, legal advice, litigation, school administrator contracts, and legal advice, litigation, collective bargaining, NEA Tiverton.
So moved.
Second, Sally.
Okay, I'm going to have a roll call vote. Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mrs. Barnworth,
Yes.
Mrs. Pava,
Yes.
Ms. Palish,
Yes.
and I vote yes. We are in executive session.
Okay, let that in. Kick everyone else out.